anything is possible, right? And when I say anything, I literally mean anything you put your mind to is possible. If another person has done it, okay, doesn't matter who, you can do it as well.
Welcome to the Building Men podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Meralda. Hey, welcome to the Building Men podcast. Building men, become the strongest version of yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. What's up, brother?
What's up?
Did it right. I was able to do the transition from the host camera to the both of us on camera together at the same time. I was just noticing as we were getting ready to come on, it's really strange how the studio is set up, right? Because we have cameras in front of us, there's lights all over the place, and there's a gigantic TV screen in front of us where we can see ourselves. We could see the guest on Zoom, but there's a tiny bit of a delay, and when it's just on me, I hate the way my face looks on the camera.
I hate the way it looks too.
Right, I know, and I'm like the way the headphones are. I have
how
like
you
this
can't turn your head.
I can't turn the right way.
It's like you're on like a puppet on strings.
Right, like a marionette thing.
A marionette, yeah.
That's the way it feels right now, as I'm like, awkwardly turning to you.
So uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So speaking of being uncomfortable.
Oh.
Do I have a transition for being uncomfortable?
There it is.
No, just coming back. I was on vacation. I recently come back. I was out in Seattle and went from the West Coast to the East Coast. So the whole like transitioning time zones. And when we're having guests on, we have to go between a couple different time zones. I don't typically travel for work too much past the East Coast. So going from the West Coast to East Coast, that was
that's no joke. It takes a while to get back into the swing of things.
Yep.
Your circadian rhythm back to normal there.
Circadian, what does circadian mean?
Your sleep and wake cycles.
All right.
Like when you go to bed and when you wake up, and you need to keep that consistent. You're supposed to wake up with the sun and go to bed when the sun goes in, like when the sun sets. So that's our natural circadian rhythm is meant to that's why like red light therapy and stuff like that. You're supposed to have that, not your phone, right away.
That's a blue light.
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly.
So during daylight saving times, that's different as well because the sun.
Yeah. So that's why people get all fucked up, and that's also why people are in depressive state in the winter because the sun is not. Well, that's mainly because of vitamin D, and we're not getting enough sunlight. So then our hormones and shit like that get all fucked up. So it's like serotonin and melatonin. It's
interesting with the daylight savings time. And we do have a guest on. I promise we'll get to that guest. I went down to started going down this rabbit hole. But as a principal, one thing I recognized that was so apparent to me, you could, when it went fall back and spring ahead, the clock change, guaranteed I was going to have an extra 10 kids in my office the next day after we got back to school because the kids' rhythm was so fucked up. They would come to school and they wouldn't be set.
Yeah.
So there's so much there. That was a nice job, by the way. Just want to give you some credit.
Thanks.
You jumped right into circadian rhythm and you just flowed with it.
I'm not going to throw the word out there because I know that you're going to be like, well, what the hell is that?
Yeah, well, knowing that now I'm ready to go with just challenging on whatever you say.
There it is.
But last thing before we jump to our guest is as I was out in Seattle, I was on the phone with Sophia. Sophia is my daughter. She's 11 years old. And, we were talking and it's 8 o'clock at night. And she's like, well, what's going on there, Dad? She's like, the sun is still out. I'm like, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. She's like, what? She's like, am I in the future or does time stop? So I was trying to explain to her just the different time zones.
It's kind of hard though.
It is.
I just learned that 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say, we just talked about that.
Wait a minute.
So in the past right now joining us is David Cohen, who's out on the West Coast. So there's a lot of great things happening 3 hours in the future, David. Just just prepare yourself.
It's going to be
So David is a 30-year-old commercial real estate broker. He has sold close to $1 billion in real estate. He is the number one commercial real estate agent for his firm in the entire world. He's a father of three. He is just a really good dude who I was introduced to via the Austin Linney lineage, the tree of Austin Linney that is just so far reaching. And I met him over the phone, and this was the first time we saw each other via Zoom face to face. So David, thanks so much for being on the Building Men podcast, my man.
Oh no, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And so you're sitting in front of a map right now. As soon as you jumped on, it's so interesting, the people's
background and what
background,
yeah.
right? Because you're I want to, with all due respect to Pitbull, I mean, you're like Mr. Worldwide right now. I gotta say that, you're just like a fucking badass.
Yeah, this is one wall of my 4-wall chamber or office, as you can call it. The map behind me is just it's pretty much of all the states, but it just, helps me. There's a lot of states that I do business in that I've never been to and don't know shit for shit about. So, the map kind of helps me realize when someone tells me, it's in this area or that area, I can kind of look over there and pretend like I know what I'm talking about in somewhat shape or form. But yeah, this is my office. Yeah, this is half or actually a piece of my office. The other pieces are just boring white walls with pictures and quotes and some of the crap I've accomplished over my life, as well as a computer and some working environment clothes, as I call them, or some suits. I really wear a t-shirt and shorts pretty much every damn day of my life, to be honest.
And you got is that a Keurig behind you? We were just talking about it. I could go for a cup of coffee right now.
That's an espresso. My wife bought it for me. I think for the holidays. My wife bought it for me for the holidays. I think in about a year or two ago, and it's the coolest thing I've ever. Well, not the coolest thing I've ever received. She thinks it is. I told her that. Obviously, that's what she wants to hear.
It's fine. We'll cut this part out. Yeah.
So espresso. So do you put anything in your espresso, or do you raw dog it? You just go fucking right at it.
Raw dog. Fucking raw. I like my shit black as can be.
Yeah.
Just sharp. Even from my coffees to my espressos. But this thing comes with a frother.
I've seen that before. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Never used it. It's got dust everywhere.
Yeah.
Never used it. I just like, good old dark coffee.
Yeah.
Man,
but it is damn good though.
I'm fiending for some caffeine.
I know. Why would you
now?
bring that up? That's the first question you asked.
We need to better prepare for the future. So as I'm looking at this space, and for those of you listening, it's just the idea of we talked about what our space looks like here when
ours
we first started.
Looks like an insane asylum.
It really
where
does.
We need a fucking straitjacket here. Yeah.
We had met Ryan Mickler, who does Order of Man podcast, and he has a whole movement. We talked to him yesterday, and his studio looks so fucking cool. It's a black background, and there's the lighting is such a cool way. He looks like he's on a spaceship in Star Wars. He's like a hero in Star Wars, and I'm like, look at this fucking shit. Here, I mean, with all due respect, we love it here.
It's
this
great,
is awesome.
Yeah.
But it is being in this white background with the fluorescent lights. I'm fucking jittery and
tweaked out. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of having a space that just makes you feel comfortable and at home, it's so important, right? Just to have a space where you can kind of look around, kick your feet back, and be like, I feel at home in this space right now.
Absolutely. I'm big on having a bunch of desk toys. I got all bunch of bullshit, little figurines and toy cars and little punching bag and all this different crap that I kind of fill my office with. And because I'm just jittery by nature, what I mean? Or you're on the phone or on a call, constantly playing with shit and all the, and I think it's very important to feel comfortable, in your space. Absolutely. I like your guys' treat.
Oh shit, yeah. And then we have
need to send you guys some
and look
more.
This is a money tray. This was my girlfriend gave us this as a present. Put that in front of us.
Now we got.
That's beautiful.
We had Anat Perry on, who is the founder of Training Camp for the Soul, and just a very spiritual woman. And she's like, "What's going on?" I took a
listen to that. I loved it.
Really amazing. We left that and we had to go and cry for a couple hours after that episode.
We had a moment there. Yeah.
And she's like, "Guys, the space. You need some green." So we were like, "All right, let's get a couple green things in here."
Overdid it.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
What's better than a money tree right?
That's right.
It's growing. It's growing every day.
Pray into it, yeah.
So you mentioned, if you were to say this is my prized like trinket or toy in your office, what is that? Like if you're gonna pick one thing out.
I have a little figurine of Gus from Breaking Bad.
Oh shit!
Gus Fring.
Oh my God,
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I remember watching that show. Let me see if I can grab it. Watching that show with my wife. We're watching, and everybody's obviously, you're getting into it, and you're realizing like, all right, he's a badass because of everything he's doing. But in the background, I'm just thinking to myself like, this is the real badass, right? This guy is a quiet assassin.
Yes.
Like, talk about the ultimate boss's boss, right? When you most people have this notion that, man, you got to be out there, you got to talk, you got to be a talker. Everybody needs to know that you're the one doing this and you're the one doing that. And this guy just does it silently. So I really enjoyed his character. So I definitely had to get him. You can't see him, but he hang out next to us for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
We need to start that up in the studio too. We need to add some flavor to it. So it's interesting because like Los Pollos Hermanos. It's absolutely amazing. I had a conversation. My son got into Breaking Bad. He's 16 years old. He's watched it 3 times now already.
Oh wow!
And we talk about the best episode of all time. And it was the title of it was Face Off, and it was Hector Soldamaca and Gus in the nursing home.
Yeah.
When he's dinging the bell, when he like that episode
Beautiful.
is just. Yeah. I don't want to give
Spoiler
it away
alert.
to those people who haven't.
Well, if you didn't watch
it
yet, fucking
right. If you haven't watched Breaking Bad yet, then stop listening to Building Men podcast immediately
shit.
and go live.
It was it.
Yeah, it's
yeah, it was. But he was again. The toughest guys out there are the ones that don't need to flaunt their masculinity or they need to go out there and scream and yell and push. He was behind the scenes and he handled his shit when he needed to. And he just talked sternly, looked people in the eye, and nobody fucked with him ever because they knew this is like the big guy on campus there.
Absolutely. Like the juxtaposition between him and Tuco. Who needed to be the one to beat you down and do all that shit. He did not need to do it. So you mentioned, David, about, you're kind of fidgety and you're all over the place and you have shit going on like this and that and your space needs to be in a certain way. Was that how you were as a kid? Like, was that you as a kid growing up that you were like the one who would have been in my office, like because you were kind of all over the place and fidgeting, or did you kind of fall in line and do what you were told to in the classroom?
I can't say that I was like that, when I was younger. I was definitely a good kid, quiet, shy kid. Definitely, tried to do what I was told. But I was never a troublemaker. Never like fidgety or all over the place. I think that kind of grew on the more I started to handle situations in the business that I'm in with bigger players or more money, is the more I'm an overthinker by nature, right? And sometimes I overthink myself into a corner. And 90% of the time it doesn't even end up happening anyway. So I'm just, coming up with all these I scenarios in my head, and it ends up working out, for the better anyways. But I think just coming into that realm and into the business I'm in, when I'm on the phone with a client or I'm trying to put a deal together, I'm never sitting down. I'm always walking around. I'm always, moving something or playing with something while I'm on the phone, just to kind of keep my mind focused. But as a child, I was definitely quiet, definitely shy. Didn't talk much unless I was spoken to, or I wasn't one to approach people and engage in conversation that I did not know. Kind of, not necessarily kept to myself, but kept to myself in a certain, if I didn't really know you, I wouldn't really talk, which created also a lot of curiosity. You know what I mean? It kind of attracted people towards me to figure out, like, why is he quiet? Why is he that? I was just so focused on not even on school, to be honest, just myself, just friends and people I love. And I just wasn't, wasn't a talker by nature. So it's definitely something that has changed over the years, or that I guess developed over the years as I grew into the role that I'm in today.
So growing up in a single parent household where your mom raised you for a majority of your life as a single parent, do you feel that you almost didn't want to disappoint your mom? Like you knew that she was going through a lot and she had so much on her plate that you were like, you know what, I need to come home and just do what I have to do because my mom is going through so much? Or was that just your DNA, that it was part of your makeup that I'm just going to, I'm going to be a little bit more curious, a little more passive in school, and I'm not going to be the troublemaker?
Yeah, I think, honestly speaking, I don't think it really had much to do with my upbringing. I think it just had, it was just in my DNA. Like I was just, never into, doing shit that other people were doing, obviously on the bad side, right? I was never wanted to do stuff because I thought it was cool to be a troublemaker, to pick on people. I was more stopping the bullying, or if I would see, I was always, for lack of a better term, popular, right? But I would use that in a different way. You know what I mean? Again, most popular people, you kind of have that notion where, you're a douchebag, or you're an asshole, or you bully people. I was kind of different. I would just, if I saw, I was always helping people, just like I am today, right? Always helping people, trying to bring up people, keep them happy, have them happy. Especially as I grow and continue to grow and go through the situations that I've gone through at such a young age. I'm starting to realize, like, in reality, that's all that matters, right? Being healthy, being happy, and that's really it. Everything else is just temporary. I just, I was a friend to everybody. If that kind of puts it in any sense, was a friend to everybody. I always cared about how, other people are feeling. Definitely.
And I'm just always fascinated by the nature versus nurture conversation.
Yeah.
How much of who we are is we were just born that way, and how much of who we are is the experiences that we have. And I always had a definition in mind, and just recently I started to realize the way I am now had a lot to do with shit that happened to me, when I was younger, like experiences that I had, and then especially going through a dysfunctional marriage for a period of time. Those experiences shaped me for a period of time, and how I process things. So I think you are who you are, but then these things that happen just push you a couple degrees, and unless you take hold of that,
directions.
And like if you're 2 degrees off, for 10 years, that's 20 degrees, and that's like a different quadrant. It could be. So I'm always interested in people's interpretation of that. The other thing I'm interested in is, a lot of the people that I talk to that we talk to on Building Men, we're talking to men, right? And about even raising sons, but then when we have a guest on that was raised by primarily a mom growing up, I'm always interested in what lessons did you learn about masculinity from your mother? You definitely learn about being a good person and this and that, but were there lessons about being a man that you learned from your mom?
Yeah, I think I definitely learned it, and coming from women, right? I mean, look, who knows men better than men, right? But in reality, I would like to think that most, especially, most women who have been through a lot, who've been through a struggle, who are successful in whatever they do, right, kind of have an idea on what a man really should be. Or what a man, how a real man act. I mean, a lot of times, you'll hear like, women say like, oh, he's not a real man, or how, however many times you hear that. And I think I've just learned, like, you don't have to be, braggadocious, or you don't have to be, what you see in whether it be, or what you hear in music, or in videos, or on TV, or in movies. Real men respect women. Real men provide for their household. Teach their children, more specifically daughters, right? I have only daughters. How about respect and because essentially, right, they grow up and they see, okay, this is how my dad treated my mom. This is how a woman should be treated. And these are my expectations. Yep. So I definitely learned, just how to have respect for a woman. Being a mom is probably the hardest job in the world. Starting from, and I would never, even watching my mother do it, obviously kind of set the tone, but then you go and see your significant other do it from scratch, right? Baby's born and you're living it like firsthand, going through the notions, and you just get to this point like, wow, man, being a woman is hard in general, but they deserve respect. They deserve to be provided for and treated correctly, because they do so much. And it's not just my wife doesn't work. She works, but taking care of the household of our children, right? And that's probably harder than what I do. And you kind of realize like what, she's really the tough one. I'm just a guy, grateful to be with her and see her, because everything my kids are and everything that they become and how smart they are and everything they know is really because she takes the time to teach them. So if anything, I would say my mother taught me to just to be an overall solid individual and a good man in a bunch of different ways, shapes, and forms. Definitely.
It's interesting. I love the way you answer that question. We had our father on, and we talked to him about that. It was Father's Day. Right?
Yeah, I remember.
We were on Father's Day. And, the way that we were raised was in a blue-collar family. He was the breadwinner in the family, and, he exposed some trauma during the episode as we were talking to him about his thoughts about his parents growing up. And I asked him point blank, like, Dad, what did you learn from Grandma about masculinity, growing up? Because she had more of a masculine role in
his
the family.
Father was essentially never home, right? He worked all the time. And so he was, she was with him when he would play sports. She would be the one to throw the football around with him outside and do all these things, right? And
and I was like, Dad, what did you learn from Grandma? He's like, what about being a man? Nothing.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
And
he's like, Puh. Like he totally blew off the question.
Like,
I was like,
shoot it away. And again, it was more of that. He comes from this society where a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and men don't show emotion. You can't learn anything from them. The dad is there, and it's nice to hear from someone who actually understands and appreciates that. And it's like, you could learn all this from anyone, right? It's not just because a man can only teach a boy and a woman can only teach a daughter. That's not how it works, right? You can learn from anyone in different ways.
I definitely say essentially, my mother was my mother and my father in many, many ways. Many ways. I was from 3 years old till maybe now, maybe not, a year ago, not even a year ago, earlier this February, I would maybe talk to my father once in a blue moon. From February, it's been a little bit more consistent because I was in Austin, and I don't know, something just clicked with me and said, I think it's about time I reach out to my father and maybe try to build, whatever we lost here. But for so long, it was just my mother, raising myself and my sister, who's about 3 years younger than me, constantly, doing whatever she could to provide us the best life that she knew what was possible. Working late, working early, working late, and I can honestly tell you, we weren't missing a damn thing. You know, and I'm not talking about materialistically. I'm just talking about emotionally. You know, as a provider, as a nurturer, we you know, there was never one time where I'm like, damn, you know, my mother can't do it. I wish I had my father to help. And she did a great, you know, she did an amazing job at doing so for us.
So your father was incarcerated from the time you were 3 years old until when? Until what age?
My father was incarcerated from the time I was 3 until about 9 years old. At that point, I believe they approached him, and it was a situation of like, hey, mister, you know, do you want to, you know, sit out your time here, or you know, we take your green card and you get sent back to Israel. And obviously, you know, he was like, no, you know, take me back. But my mother divorced him, I want to say about, I don't know the exact details, but about a year, maybe a year or less than a year after he was incarcerated, because when she noticed how long it was going to be, because she was just sick of telling us, you know, making up bullshit to you know, let us know that wherever the hell he's at. So they ended up getting a divorce. And from that point on, as a kid, I would talk to my father probably every few months, or maybe he'd call me on my birthdays. But then he, you know, got married after he was sent back to Israel, and you know, got married, and then things kind of took a turn. I can't say, look, you know, everyone goes through their situations, but you know, again, I did not feel like I was missing anything, and my relationship with my father was definitely broken into pieces, and it just got to a point where, you know, when you see someone on the street, right, that you don't know, you don't have a care. And I mean, you know, obviously if it's someone you want to meet or something, it's a different story. But you know, random people walking in the street, you don't have a care to walk up to them and just be like, hey, how are you? How's your day been? You know what I mean? And it kind of became the same thing. Like, hey man, I don't know you. So did not have an interest, or it did not, you know, it wasn't irking me not to speak to my father.
Right.
And my mother was giving us everything and providing everything for us. So, you know, she did a great job. So I wasn't missing anything.
Our father, his brother, he found out he was adopted when he was like, 19 or 20 years old. He found out that his brother was adopted. So there was a lot of trauma there that was never dealt with in the family. And just recently, my uncle Nicky reached out to connect with his family, you know, the family that gave him up for adoption. So there's a lot of stories around that. And it made me think of, you know, so now you have your biological father who you've been estranged with, and you have 3 children of your own. Is that something where you had to, you know, will they know him as their grandfather? And then 2, if so, how much thought went into that, like, holy shit, is this something I even want to expose my own children to, knowing that this is their grandfather?
So I am starting to turn the train towards, yes, my biological children will know that is their grandfather. My daughter, my 3-year-old Chanel, so in February I was in Austin, Texas. Had the thought of, we're up and going to Austin, just like everybody else from California.
Yeah, right.
You know, and just a lot of business partners. My business partner, actually, the person who got me into commercial real estate, and the person I own my properties with, you know, 50, 54, 55 years old, up and moved his whole family to Austin, Texas. And he would constantly reach out to me and just say, hey, you know, this place is amazing. And then I went over there and I loved it. But, you know, unbeknownst to me, we got stuck in the winter storm, and my wife, up until we got together, she's never traveled anywhere. right? I took her like on her first plane ride and she's crying, you know what I mean, on the plane, and you're talking about like a 30-minute flight. So when we went there and got stuck in the storm, she's like, fuck that. This happens all the time, even though it's the first time in 30 years. So, yeah, with that being said, you know, I was in the car one day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to my father. And I did. And from there on, you know, we started talking, you know, through text message, through WhatsApp, sending pictures of the kids. And we you know, I just had an epiphany, like, hey, you know what? I feel like maybe I should just let everything go and start to try and build a relationship with my father. So, you know, my daughter and my daughter that's on the way will definitely know that is their grandfather. Yeah. And I'm trying to build, you know, whatever relationship I can with him, because, life's too damn short. Yeah. Right. And, you know, I'm thinking the whole time, you know, I'm thinking, you know, how do I feel? I don't want to talk to him, blah, 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 you know, over the past. And now that I'm a father, I can only imagine, like, fuck, no matter what happens, whether I go, you know, prison or whatever the case may be, imagine my children not talking to me. You know, how would it would kill me, right? You know what I mean? So I kind of put myself in his shoes, and I think it's good. It would be good for myself, good for him, and ultimately, you know, good for my children.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, and it leads me to thinking about, you know, going through that. So he's incarcerated for this amount of time in your life. At some point, you decided, you know, I'm going to pick up a basketball, and this is going to be what I'm going to really get involved in this sport and fall in love with it. So at what point did you decide, like, you know, basketball is my thing, like, this is my dream, this is my life?
I think in elementary, I just you know, getting toward, you know, like the fourth grade, or would just play basketball. We'd have a hoop in the backyard that was on top of the garage. You know, nothing special. Like, I think my grandfather had cut out like a, you know, piece of wood and made it the shape of a backboard and drilled it to the top of the garage. Just started shooting the ball there. You know, started to realize, not only, you know, am I building a passion for this, but I'm just accelerating at it quite damn fast. And then, you know, by the time I was in fifth grade, it really became like, you know, okay, I'm going to play basketball, right? Just like everybody else who, you know, starts to play. It's like, oh, I'm going to take this as far as I can go. It started, at that point, it started to become real, because you start to play, you know, like AAU travel ball and you know, knock on wood, you know, I was pretty good at it. Mind you, I'm like 5'8", right? So, just would always have to be quicker, faster, just overall better than the next person. And luckily for me, I was through putting in the work. My mother, again, did an amazing job at, you know, taking me everywhere, paying for one-on-one training, you know, paying for everything I needed to excel in that space. And eventually she didn't have to do all the driving and all the you know, all the paying for the training and stuff, because of the fact that I was accelerating at it so quickly. It all of a sudden became, you know, and for lack of a better term, free. You know, coaches started, all right, I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to, you know, I'll drop them off. I'll take them here. I'll take them there. And, you know, I kind of, the passion started to build when I would say maybe early around 4th, 5th grade.
So I've had this conversation with my son, who plays basketball, you know, at the high school level. He's 16 years old, about, is it tougher to shoot with a double rim or no net? What do you think?
You know what? I think it's probably tougher to shoot with no net.
I agree. I'm a marble shooter anyway. It doesn't matter, but I think no net is harder.
I think it's just a visual thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, look, if you could shoot, you could shoot, right? So it is what it is. But I think it's just a trigger in your mind. Like, you know, you don't see the net there. It just doesn't cling, whether it's, you know, a chain or it doesn't just, you know, you just don't hear that or anything. You don't see it. 90% of the time, you don't even know if you make it if there's no net. Right? Did I make that?
You get like a ping of dopamine when it like
swear
hits
I did.
Yeah.
I swear I did. Like, no, dude, you fucking airballed.
Yeah, that was terrible. What are you talking about?
That's what I said to him. He goes, Dad, it's a 95% chance you didn't make the shot anyway. So what's the difference? Yeah, I was a power forward.
You and I have to make it first before. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him and tell him that I asked that question. We've definitely talked about that a couple different times. He also threw in like having a little tiny bit of a slant. Like everything else is good, but just a little bit of a slant to it as a shooter, because he's like the 3-point shooter on the team. With me, I was like totally
awesome.
no net it's the hardest thing. Just the depth perception.
16, is that sophomore, freshman?
Just started his junior year. He just started his junior year.
Oh, junior.
Yep. So
very cool.
So, growing up at that time in LA, who was your idol on the basketball court? Who did you like emulate?
I mean, I grew up in the Allen Iverson era. You know what I mean? That is. I mean, to me, Kobe Bryant is the greatest basketball player to ever live.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Deadliest one-on-one player the game has ever seen. But I grew up in the Allen Iverson era. You know, where everybody wanted to be Allen Iverson. He was, you know, the height, the aggressiveness, the drive, the no fear, the headbands, the armbands, the shorts, everything. Everybody wanted to be
practice.
Allen Iverson.
Talking about practice.
You're talking to me about practice? Maybe not the no practice part, but everything else.
So with Iverson, I also think too. Like I grew up in the. I graduated from high school in '95, so my wheelhouse was in the Jordan era, the Pistons, the Bad Boys, the Celtics. I was a Knicks fan.
Absolutely.
So, and I talked to my son about the way basketball.
A Knicks fan, you said?
Yeah, I was a Knicks fan. Or am I'm a Knicks fan. Yeah, Knicks, Giants. Yeah. I'm a lot of sad times. And so I've never seen a Knicks championship. I've only seen a couple playoff wins for them. So I was in the era where I was watching Patrick Ewing and John Starks and Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason. That they were these like tough ass guys, and there was no foul called unless there was blood on the floor. So when they would play the Pistons and the Bulls, and it was just like these wars and the Pacers that they would go through. So I'm telling him as he's watching basketball now, and there was definitely, it didn't go from like that to where it is now. There was a slow transition to where when I think about the early 2000s, you think about like Latrell Sprewell and jumping into the stands and getting the fist fights and shit like that. But there's to now, like as I watch basketball, it just doesn't look like the sport that I grew up playing. What it is now. So what do you think about the game now after playing basketball for such a long time?
Yeah. Before I get into that, I know I mentioned I feel sorry for you about the Knicks, but I'm a Clipper fan, so I feel your pain, my friend.
Trajectory is facing up for them. Yeah, I mean, I like what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I
would take the roster. Yeah, I would take the roster right now.
It's always, and we've had my family and I, we've had season tickets for quite some time, since like 2005. And every damn year, it's like, are you going to renew? It's like, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. Yeah. And we do it. And then like, why the fuck did we do that? Yep. But what I think of the game now, it's definitely different. Absolutely different. It is more about being a long range shooter, right? 99% of teams are shooting threes. Doesn't matter who you are. And we're not talking about threes, right? We're talking about like 40 footers, 50 footers, like putting up, Steph Curry and Trae Young and, all these amazing shooters, right? They're just putting up shots from everywhere. And also, with all these new, hop steps and things that if you would have did like in the early 2000s or the even in the 90s, would probably be called for travel or for something. And it's just a lot there. The game is definitely different. I'm still playing religiously twice a week. And we're I've obviously adapted to everything just because I'm still playing. It's still a passion of mine. But there are younger kids that even though I'm busting their ass, let's keep that in mind. They're just doing it's different. You know what I mean? Little things from different hop steps to different situations, and you could tell that Steph Curry's changed game for sure. Definitely has changed the game. But I think like anything else, right? It evolves for the better. Not the biggest fan of super teams.
Agreed.
But I think it's definitely evolving and evolved for the better. It's pretty cool to see. Definitely cool to see.
And I think about from the time I grew up, if somebody takes a three and blows a kiss or shakes his shoulders, he's not walking the next day. Like someone's taking that guy out. Like
especially in New York, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I just so I try to tell. Like I agree. Like the game has changed in a way where it's way more accessible now. To where if you're a kid who's 5'7", 5'8", you're like I can still do this. Where for me when I was growing up, and I'm 6'4", I couldn't even play at a higher level. Not that I ever could, but you needed to be 6'8" if you were going to be a power forward, or 6'9" or something like that. Or you had to have a ridiculous handle, or you had to shoot like fucking, Trey Young, like you mentioned. But it's cool because now it gives kids an opportunity to aspire to something that maybe before they didn't have the opportunity. So he absolutely has changed the game. I think saying Kobe Bryant is the best ever he's top 5.
I'm guessing you think it's Michael Jordan.
I think it's tough to. I mean, did you watch the documentary, the Bulls documentary?
Yeah. So luckily I was blessed enough to grow up with like NBA TV and everything, and watching like Hardwood Classic. I mean, I as far back as everybody, Bird, Wilt, Kareem, even players that no one, other people don't ever mention that are, damn good, that have fell off the face of the earth. But to me, and I'd like to think to many people, especially in my my age, my area. I mean, Kobe Bryant it's just, the deadliest one-on-one player to ever grace, basketball, mentally, ability wise, the guy is just a killer.
Yeah, it's funny.
So is Michael Jordan, obviously, but
you think about it. So I think about like LeBron. His whole thing was he was making everyone else better on the court. Like I think of Jordan as like he was just like one of the the way that he took it. Like everybody else was against him, so he used the motivation of the way the players on the opposite team. Somebody would look at him. And he's like, "You just called me a fucking pussy." And they're like, I didn't say anything. Yeah. And he's like, no. And he would use that. But what Kobe did is he just had this like stone cold fucking killer mentality. There's a meme or something where somebody's standing out of bounds and
and he throws it, the ball, and he didn't move.
Staring at him like, fuck
the craziest work ethic I've ever witnessed
awesome.
in my entire life. I mean, it's insane to think about that. There was a guy, I forget, it was an interview that I was listening to with Kobe and somebody else, and the guy said he was going to he wanted to see his workout, and so Kobe's like, all right, well, my workout starts at 4 a.m. So the guy's like, all right, well, I'm going to get there at, 3:30, 3:15, because I want to make sure that I'm there before him to show him I'm serious about this. Kobe already was there, warming up. He was there at 2:45 in the morning. He wasn't – the guy was like, what the fuck is going on? He was like, I thought you don't start until 4. He's like, yeah, but I do a pre-thing before I do that. It's like, what? The guy was going nuts.
The work, it's nuts, right? And then you mentioned just the mentality. I think, when Matt Barnes, was taking out the ball and pump fake, at his face, and he just looking at him stone cold face. It's just different. I remember also I think it was Shumpert if I'm not mistaken. He was guarding Kobe one time. He was like just giving it to Kobe, I think, across like a whole half, and then or a whole a whole half, and then Kobe, he's like, he shakes his hand, he's like, all right, nice half, and like it's over, you know what I mean? And the guy's like, what the fuck does he mean? Like, not nice, and then Kobe just.
I remember that. Yeah, that was like an interview. He was talking about that, right? It was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny as hell.
Or in the Olympics, you know what I mean? He talking crap to Scola in Argentina, and he's like kind of telling him, he's speaking to him, and he's like, speak English, you speak better English. He's like, watch what language I speak best, and then just craps all over Argentina. I mean, he's just different. That commercial with Kanye West, I don't know if you guys remember. Kanye West is, he's like, Kobe, help me. He's like, what should I do? And he's like, do better. And he's like, what do you mean do better? He's like, do better. Have you guys ever seen that commercial?
No, I don't think so.
I gotta look it up now.
It was like in the back of like the Mamba Academy commercials. You guys would love it. That thing truly speaks, just to who he was as a person, man. I can't believe he passed away. Nuts. It still doesn't even seem real. You see on TV, or you see like a picture of him or whatever. You're like, fuck, I can't believe he fucking died.
That's one of those things where you remember where you were when you heard that news. There's only certain things that you remember. I remember exactly where I was, what I was feeling. My son told me, I was like, I can still remember that feeling.
Yeah, and here it was like a cloud for a week. You know what I mean? Literally, and we had just the night before we had went out. My wife and a bunch of friends. And I think Conor McGregor just knocked out Donald Cerrone the night before, and we were out, watching that. And from there, we ended up going out. And for us, it was cool because my daughter was like 2 at the time, and it was really hard to get out, like with my wife and friends, just have a shit show. And her mother was watching, so we had went out from after the fight. We had went to the club and we just partied all night. And the next day we all meet up like for brunch, and everybody's just hungover. And you're like sitting there, and you look up at the TV, and it's like TMZ reports that Kobe died, like plane, helicopter crash. And then you see he died, and you're like, no fucking way. And then with his daughter, and then it really became like, oh my God. No, everybody was just, it was really, really depressing here in Los Angeles. You could almost feel the energy everywhere you went of just people like heads down and but it's crazy, man. Yeah.
So
that's why I mean life is short, right?
Yeah. Right. And so you loved Iverson, but Kobe was your top guy, right? And so basketball is your sport. You start playing in 4th and 5th grade, and all of a sudden you're on this trajectory where you're like, you know what, I'm feeling it here. Like something clicks with me. Your family supports it. Now you have coaches that are like, you know what, we will come and fucking pick you up and drive you to and from. That's when you know that the kid is legit. When a coach will go out of his way to make sure you're getting to practice, that's when you know something special is going on. So then you're getting up into the your high school age range, and you leave the country to go play professional ball overseas. So talk to us a little bit about how that came about and the decision to go overseas and leave your home behind.
I think it kind of came about, going to all these, special camps, like double pump camps and all these combines and camps. You kind of, unfortunately, you kind of get hit in the face with like, look, you got to be, 6'5", 6'6", right? I guess the better way to say it is the chances of going to the NBA in the beginning are slim to none, right? But as a kid or as a young boy, you don't really, that doesn't really process, right? And even before that, you're a top player in your high school and in high schools and in your division, and even then, like not even 1%, even go to like D1 school, you know what I mean? So the decision came like do I go to like D2, D3 school, or do I go play basketball somewhere overseas? And I had the opportunity came up because my grandmother's brother, a lot of my family lives in Israel. First and foremost, tons of cousins, tons of family members, especially brothers and sisters of my grandparents and uncles and aunts. And my grandmother's brother owns a big clothing line there. So he was like, look, I know the operations manager for this team. And it kind of clicked, and my grandmother was leaving to Israel about like 2 weeks later, already booked. And I was like, I'm going to go with you. So she bought me a ticket, and I just hopped on a plane and went with her. This is just thinking, hey, I'm going to go play. Went, and then as you kind of go through the tryouts and you realize what it takes to actually go and do that. Still had to finish school. So I didn't know that, this is when everything else starts to pile up on me. I didn't know that I would have to, live in my school, the school that I was going to go to. And it was a high school, but with like a dorm situation. And then I would constantly have to hop on the train, go an hour away, practice, with the team and do whatever we're doing with the team, get back on a train and go back. Because even before I went to live at the school or started at the school, the city that my family was living in was an hour and a half away from the team that I was playing for. So that's how it kind of came about. It was an idea that I kind of just jumped on without contemplating everything, and it just ended up coming to fruition.
So the team that you were playing with, most of them were probably in their 20s, correct?
Yeah. So I was on the 18 and under because I was under and the adult team at the same time. So it was just a lot. Not necessarily a lot physically, more mentally for me, just all the, being in a place that I don't know and everything else.
Do you feel like you were accepted onto the team, or were you like a foreigner coming in?
I think, to them, I was definitely accepted. It was really cool. To them, it was really cool. Like most people. I mean, not. Let me not get myself in trouble here. But a lot of people that are not from California or Los Angeles, right? All they think is like Hollywood, because that's all they see, right? So to them, it was just like, oh man, Los Angeles, Hollywood, like, that's awesome. And it was cool because I do speak Hebrew. I do speak fluent Hebrew, so that helped a lot. And it was, definitely accepted. It was really, really cool to kind of ease in there. And then the notion of, just being from LA kind of helped, a lot of, especially on the 18 and under, people took that, and kind of, they loved it. So definitely accepted.
I think about just being a 16, 17-year-old kid, going to school, living in a dorm type situation, having to take an hour train ride to and from practice. That must have been a lonely time, right? I mean, that must have been a lot of like deep, lonely, thoughts that you're having there, right?
It was definitely and definitely a lonely time, and I didn't have. That's the thing. Any friends other than my cousins. But it's like, you don't 17 years, 16, 17 years, you just know they're your cousin. You never even spoke to them. Yeah. So, how good of friends can you be? And then, you're talking to your friends at home. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're going here, we're going there. And you're just like, fuck, man, like it just starts to slowly pile up. Start to miss miss home, miss your parents. Generally, all of that just revolves around you start to miss home. And it started to chip away at me slowly.
So when you made the decision to come back home, your group at home who knew that you went overseas to play ball? How were you accepted right back in, or was it like, oh, see, man, you shouldn't have done that? Like, oh, that was bullshit anyway.
Accepted right back in. Didn't skip a beat. Didn't skip a beat whatsoever. And I had called my mother and I had just, told her, hey, I want to come back home. And she's like, all right, if you come home, you're going to work with your uncle. And he was doing residential real estate. So I came back and I was just a runner, but I just kind of fell into what we thought. Now I know it's not the cool anymore. What we thought was cool, hanging out, smoking weed, just working and looking at the clock, waiting for it to be 5 o'clock so you can go hang out with your friends, and kind of fell into this pattern. I wasn't, I was just a runner for my uncle, and then, working with family, everything travels downhill. Oh yeah. So it's always your fault. But it taught me a lot. He is probably other than my mother, saying that she's the closest thing I had to a father figure, obviously it's different, right? But my uncle's probably the closest thing I had to a father figure. He was the first person that, you could sit there as a man closest to me and be like, all right, that's what I want to be.
Did he talk to you like, all right, Dave, like, this is why I'm doing this, or like, let me teach you like this lesson? Or was it you would sit back and observe him interacting with other people thinking this is what I want to do?
Sit back, observe, thinking this is what I want to do, as well as some of like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing that. Right. And I'm looking at him like successful real estate agent, cool cars, good guy. Just you kind of get that notion like, man, I want to be like that. Yeah. And that's kind of like the first, good husband, great father, amazing father, to a daughter. So, it's like, yeah, that just took a look at him. I want to get as close to that as possible.
You mentioned,
and he would always take me under his wing.
And men need mentors. I definitely believe that's a part of that rite of passage thing, is that you need to see other men interacting in a way that you want to be able to emulate. So the fact that you had them in your life at that point, it's probably paramount to where, like, how you were able to get from that point when you came back from Israel at 19 to where you are at 30. You mentioned, though, at the beginning, you were like, just looking at the clock, like, it's got to be fucking 5 o'clock soon. I cannot wait to fucking go smoke a bowl and go party and do whatever. Was there a time that you remember where it was like, all right, I've done this for 2 years, now I got to get serious with it? Was there like a moment in time, or was it just a slow progression for you to try to figure it out, and then finally, like, I'm an adult now, I got this?
It was definitely a slow progression. Definitely a slow progression. My uncle will, excuse me, he'll sit and tell you that he tried to beat it into me every day, and I just didn't take it. Didn't process, which is why in turn I am a big believer in everything happens in due time. Everything kind of unfolds when it needs to, as it needs to, right? So it was definitely a process that, I had worked with him, I had quit, I had worked with him again, I had quit again. It was just a long process, all of which I'm grateful for, because, all contributes to who I am at this moment, sitting here talking to you guys. But it was definitely a long process. And I think I had I wanted to quit and I didn't know how, so I had made up some crap about that I was going to go back to school. And obviously I wasn't, and I went ahead and did so. I told him I was going to go back to school. He's like, all right. So, went off and didn't work for like 6-7 months. And at that point, just dead broke, and ended up moving to my grandmother's house. And, at a certain point in time, I had just gone through this bad breakup, and I was just like, looked in the mirror and kind of had one of those moments like, wait a minute, like, this is not me. You know what I mean? Like I've always, always been, working or doing something, so I was never just okay with just doing nothing whatsoever. And, asking my freaking girlfriend at the time for $5 to go to Carl's Jr. and shit. Right. I just kind of had a moment and I just went and I was like, I'm going to get back on my feet. Went on Craigslist and like Indeed and whatever, and just made a damn resume revolving around real estate and just sent it to every single real estate post that I could find. And I had gotten a call from, I had went to I didn't know commercial real estate. I know it's funny to say, but or maybe it sounds silly to some people, but had no idea commercial real estate existed. I did not know you can own a building, the same way someone owns a building, right? The same way they own a home, or someone, you go to an apartment building, someone owns the whole apartment building, and these people just lease these units from this person. So I had no idea, just kind of threw like a bunch of resumes at the wall, ended up getting called in for an interview at a big brokerage firm. And then as I was leaving there, and I had a feeling I was going to get the job, got another call from a smaller brokerage firm and a smaller broker, and was going to kind of shun them away. Just told them that I'm not available. I'm thanks for the call, but no thanks, kind of thing. And my mother was driving me to these interviews. She's sitting next to me. She's like, "You fucking stupid! Like, have I not taught you? You hear out everyone and everything before you make a decision." So I was like, you know what? I can be there. And I ended up, everything just clicked. The broker knew my uncle, kind of solidified my space there. And it was just a different vibe than a traditional big commercial real estate brokerage. And that was the beginning of my my real estate, my commercial real estate career, or actually real estate career, as in selling, trying to sell stuff and do real business, not just running around from right. Taking pictures of shit.
So the time that you were borrowing $5 for, a number 4 on the menu at Carl's, to becoming the number
Supersized
one
all the time.
Right, then it's like $5.69 and you got to scrounge some change out
yeah,
of
right.
or whatever. To becoming, from that point, to becoming the number 1 commercial real estate agent in the world, was there a moment in that span of time that you were like, I made it now. Now I'm in, I feel the traction. I passed that point of like exponential growth where you're like, I made it. I am fucking here right now.
Yeah. It was the moment I did my first, my first large deal and really made something out of nothing. And when I say something out of nothing, I mean, made a deal happen from, literally a fart in the air. Just reach out to someone. It was a no. I just pushed and rebutted and it ended up, they ended up being open to sell. And I went and I did a $59 million deal. At that point in time, my wife was pregnant. So I kind of had to get that done. I didn't have any choice. I did not go focus on, I need to go get a big deal, right? So that I can, be someone or whatever. It just happened through faith and hard work. But once I did that, I kind of took a step back and I was like, holy shit, this is real now. Like, this is who I am. And this is, I'm here. So after that moment is kind of, when I realized that, but it all started I'm a big, huge part of who I am is because of my wife. Definitely.
And, well, I'm sure she's going to love that you said that after, in the beginning saying, I'll be in trouble if I don't do this with my wife. That was a clincher right there. So when she listens, we
right.
Totally.
It was a calculated move.
Yeah.
Well done.
I see what you did there.
Well
negates the whole espresso conversation.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, what espresso conversation?
Yeah. Well, I don't
nothing
remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
So when my last question will be then, after the journey you've gone on, and you just mentioned that moment that you just had, right? With all the lessons you've learned, the success you've had in your field in real estate, commercial real estate, what would be the biggest thing that you feel like a kid who's, being raised in a single parent family that maybe needs some level of inspiration to get to where he's going to go? What would be the biggest lesson that you've learned that you're like, you know what, listen, kid, you just remember this and you're going to be okay forever?
Yeah, I would say it's two things. I would say anything is possible, right? And when I say anything, I literally mean anything you put your mind to is possible. If another person has done it, okay, doesn't matter who, you can do it as well. And then another thing I wish I knew that when I was younger that I feel would definitely help is everything passes. There's no getting strong on the lows or the highs. Everything passes, the highs, the lows. So as long as you have faith, as long as you're healthy and happy, it's all good. And I mean that, with everything I have inside me, as long as you and your loved ones and are healthy and happy, it's always going to be all good. Everything else is just the cherry on top. Through faith, and when I say through faith, I don't know, most people's spiritual, beliefs are different than others, but I just simply mean through faith of knowing that you can, having faith that you can do whatever you want to do, and that it will work out, for the better. And if it's supposed to happen, it'll be for you. And life, just that understanding of that life happens, for you, right? Not to you. Anything's possible.
That's the name of the episode. Just as a teaser, anything is possible with David.
I knew
Cohen.
once
Quote,
you said that, I was like, "Yep, that's
the title of this episode."
I going on, from that, that larger deal I mentioned. I've gone on to sell $100 million buildings, $200 million buildings, but it's not like, okay, how do I go sell? Oh my God, I sold this. Let me go sell a bigger building, right? Or let me. It's just, hey man, I'm just gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna have faith that it's gonna happen. And I've lost out on so much, so many sleepless nights, so many things have not happened, that I thought were gonna happen. And the old me would kick myself in the ass about it and go have. Go cry myself to sleep or whatever. And then, you just get to a point where you just realize everything happens for a reason. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. So there, just keep on digging, man.
Brother, anything?
No, that was great. That was for the first time I really felt like we were having a conversation, like at a bar somewhere and just shooting the shit, like it didn't feel like we were in an interview. And that was like, number one, I think because you were so authentic, and then also the courage that it takes to talk about some of this stuff is hard, and I get that. So thank you. This was awesome. I really appreciate you giving us this time.
No, I appreciate you guys, having me. I mean, look, if this can even open one person's eyes, right? Then my job's done.
Well, two people's eyes already.
Definitely.
Just having this conversation with you. There's always those moments that you go through, David, where you're like, is what we're doing, is it reaching anyone? Is anyone listening to what we're saying? Are we on the right path here? Are we doing this for a specific reason, or is it an exercise in futility? And when you're talking to someone that has just so much faith in what they're doing and the idea that you can achieve, whatever your goals are, you just, you have to believe it first more than anything else and put your head down, do the work, and it's all going to work out. I mean, to me, honestly, I needed to have this conversation with you today. There was with stuff going on in my life right now, this is an important conversation for me to have, so I truly appreciate it.
pleasure, and I appreciate again. I appreciate you guys having me. I enjoyed it very much, definitely.
So where can the Building Men audience find you? And if anybody's has a $300 million building for sale, how can they reach out for you? That one too.
They can send it to you, and then you can send it to me. That way, I can make sure you're involved.
There we go.
Exactly. No, I don't really have much social media, just Instagram. It's the David Cohen, DAVIDCOHEN, and I'm always willing to help someone with anything or any advice or any questions, or whether that's a quick message or jumping on a call or anything. Absolutely. I'm love to good karma. So I'm the David Cohen on Instagram.
You got it. We'll put that into the show notes, and we'll promote this, and there's going to be some great clips from this too. I can't wait to put this out there. Building Men, you can find us on Instagram, building.men. Buildingmencoach@gmail.com is our email address. Go a step further than you thought you can go. Thank you so much to David Cohen for being on the podcast. We'll see you next time on Building Men.